sport has been instrumental in where I am today. If I think about what academia really is, it's the long-term game. So my message in Women's Month is be true to yourself and don't compare yourself to others. We're all on our own journey, and each of our journey has something amazing to offer.
Welcome to Be Brave. We continue our Women's Month special, and today I'm honored to be in conversation with one of my best friends. I have known her since I was 18 years old. We met at university. Our friendship was anchored on purchasing second-hand textbooks that has now evolved into a sisterhood. She's my mentor and dear friend, but most importantly, she's a dynamic force. Senior lecturer at the University of Pretoria, as well as a mother to 3 beautiful children and a wife to Hannes Roux. Please help me welcome my dear friend, Catherine Roux. Hello, Catherine.
Hi, thank you, Kefilwe, for having me today. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here, and it's really an honor. And thank you for being my friend for all these years. We do have so many special moments.
You really do. And I'm so excited that we finally get to do this. We've had many conversations. We've had many teary moments, epiphanies, seen each other's milestones over the years. But for you to say yes to our first sit-down interview, I'm truly honored. And let's get into it. Catherine. Many know you as Dr. Roux, but I'm going to call you Catherine because I've known you since the early days. So, friend, let's talk about your childhood and the early days. What is it that inspired you when you think of your background to do what you do today in academia?
Sure. So my childhood was filled with supportive parents and resources and opportunities for which I'm very grateful for. Yeah. But what really stands out, if I think about where I am today and the child that I had, there were a few key things that were instrumental in developing me and preparing me for the future. One of them was, I recall my parents providing me with a study skills program. I was actually not an academic. I was not a distinction. I wasn't that person who people would describe as smart. I never ended matric with 7 A's, even though I have a doctorate today. But what it was that was critical was teaching me the skills to learn. And I've always appreciated knowing how to learn, and that's been what has sustained me. Having the skills in order to learn and become a lifelong learner. And that's what's so needed as an academic. So I really appreciated the training I was given there. And of course, the opportunities to do sport. And sport has been instrumental in where I am today. My parents encouraged me to do various sports. And if I think about what academia really is, it's the long-term game. It takes over a decade to get to your qualifications. It's an endurance thing. And if I look back, I think cross-country was actually a sport that really taught me discipline, long-term, that it's a long-term game. Breathing. I think about cross-country. I had to breathe and control my breathing. I had to see the end in mind. And of course, I needed to finish strong. All of those same elements I see as being applicable to how I got my doctorate. Seeing the end in mind. Sustaining yourself through tough times when you're exhausted, when you're finished, but carrying on. So I appreciated those things in my childhood that I can see have transferred into and supported me to get to where I am today.
Wow, Catherine, thank you for sharing that. And the power of the parental support and the exposure that you had at a young age into the oasis of opportunities out there. I loved what you said there about the cross country and building the resilience, the breathing, the pacing oneself, because so many times as we are building our careers, we have to pace yourself.
Definitely.
What inspired you to choose the path of academia? Because you could have gone to corporate.
Definitely.
You could have been in management consulting.
Yes.
What was it that inspired you about academia?
Well, it was my curiosity that got me into academia. I wasn't corporate. I love business. I love business, and still to this day, I'm a case study researcher because I want to be at the pulse and heart of business, and I love strategic management. But I recall being curious about why things were happening. So curious about business that I wanted to research it. I was there in it, but I wanted to solve business problems. So that's what inspired me to do my master's. And I wanted to do that research. And as I did that research, my love for research developed. I enjoy thinking at that level. And what happened was I heard from a friend of an opportunity at UNISA, and I applied for the job. When I got offered the job, I was sitting in Rustenburg, but the job's in Pretoria. It was before we had hybrid work, before this remote work, before COVID and all the changes. It was a full-time office-based job. And I remember having this offer and actually not being logistically able to take it. It was a critical moment for me because I wanted to pursue that career in academia. That it was an interest of mine, but everything around it was not certain. I wasn't in the right place. I didn't know how I was going to take it. My husband didn't have the job in Johannesburg. We hadn't moved, and I had to make a decision amongst uncertainty, and that's where I needed to be brave. I needed to make a decision before all the elements fell into place. And I made the move. We decided to take the job, and fortunately everything did. And I think that's such a important element about life, is learning to make decisions amongst imperfect information and imperfect timing.
But let's get practical about that, Catherine. Like, how do you make a decision during uncertainty? Where people out there who are watching our conversation are at a paradox in their lives, and they are at that T-junction of which path to go. How do they do it?
It's really is a challenge. Some of the tools that I have learned to rely on is you do make the effort to gather as much information as possible, and you've got to be willing to operate in a murky and uncertain situation. You've got to be willing to be a little bit uncomfortable. To get to that point where I was taking up that job, I needed to commute hours. I needed to live interimly somewhere else. I remember even packing my guinea pigs up and moving them and all of these things. And I actually had to just get used to that feeling of change and not having the unknown. So for me, one of the key things is getting used to the feeling, because it's not, all of us resist. We want things in order. We want structure. We want to know where tomorrow we will be. We want to have everything set up. It gives us comfort. Right. So it's accepting that discomfort and leaning into it. So I knew that I needed to push hard, dig deep, in order to make that happen. But one of the actual practical tools that I did, and this one my pastor at church actually helped me with when I needed to make another decision, and that was moving to UP. Again, imperfect timing. I was pregnant with my third child. Wow. Normally you would say, well, that's not the time to change jobs. Yeah. But I remember I expected to have a session with my pastor where he would give me very spiritual elements on how to make this decision. And he took out a piece of paper and we started writing pros and cons. And we started ranking them and adding weight to what was most valuable to me. Mm-hmm. In that time, I prioritized what it was I was really looking for. And in the end, I could look at this practical piece of paper and say, all right, it's time for me to move to UP. And I sometimes we are looking for, a sign, or we're looking for a feeling that's not necessarily there. Sometimes we've got to get practical and write it out. But again, it's not perfect information. I didn't have all the information available, but what I did have, I could use and weigh up and pro up, and getting that consult.
Oh, yeah.
Being willing to ask for the help.
For the guidance along the journey.
When you sit with it all in your head,
yeah,
it feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
But inviting someone into your space, a trusted advisor, and then realizing that this is actually something we can get to a point of decision.
Correct. And so many times people operate in silos, even in their own lives, where they're like, I can do this on my own. I can figure this out on my own. But it's so important to draw on the insight of others. I loved what you said about engaging with your past as well when going through trying times, when you're posed with making a decision. Let's talk a bit around mentors. When you look at your career journey, who have been the guiding forces that have helped you?
Yes, absolutely. Mentors are significant to nobody. I say nobody, but just about none of us get to where we are without them. I've had various mentors in different roles, and I thank all of them for the different things that they brought. I recall it can be from inviting me to be a guest lecturer when I didn't yet have the experience, but giving me the opportunity. Other times nominating me for an award. And sometimes it also meant just being there when you need to deliver, when you need to collect that data, just saying, I'm here.
Yes.
So I've so appreciated their critical role that they've played in supporting me and giving me encouragement. What I reflect on mentorship that is just such a nugget I want to share with you today is that sometimes you get to this place where you've been mentored for so long, but the mentee actually becomes a colleague. And how do we understand that or both myself and the mentors understand that the mentee no longer needs the mentorship sometimes? And there comes a time when we almost level out and we say, well, now this is a colleague. I'm so thankful for that mentorship over the years. You've been instrumental, acknowledging that person, but also realizing that the season is changing and you're now at a different level. I enjoy most of all the full circle moments I've had when it comes to mentorship. What do I mean by that? I've had opportunities to invite my mentors back to be guest lecturers in my classes. Wow. And I loved it. I loved the humility of the mentor to say that they're now my guest lecturer, or, the dynamics change. So much about mentorship is also seeing that it does change. They play a pivotal role at critical times, but that role does change. And I want to pay it forward. I want to carry on offering the opportunities, nominating, or just being there for others. So it's definitely, for me, a perpetual thing that you continue with.
Yeah.
But I also love the full circle moments that occur during mentorship for me.
So true. Catherine, I've been in your class and I've seen the passion you have for your students, the thousands of them in that lecture hall, and how you are so intentional about the learning experience. Where does that emanate from?
Keith, people are desperate for human connection. I can teach strategic management. That is what I do. I'm a master's class lecturer in strategic management. But when I've noticed the class come alive and learn the most is when I've brought in transparency, authenticity, and also vulnerability. It's not been easy. I recall when I was teaching a case on Barbie, and we were discussing how Barbie had become inclusive. Some of the things that Barbie as a metal brand had done was include Barbie in a wheelchair, Barbie with a prosthetic leg, as well as even diabetes Barbie, and of course Down syndrome Barbie. And I recall reading about it as part of the case and thinking, what am I going to do now? Do I go in and teach a generic class where I just talk about, Barbie's adaptive strategies? Or do I bring in the human experience? And for me, that you asked about, how do I do it? I make it real.
Ooh.
And at that moment, I spoke about my own child with Down syndrome.
Whoa.
I brought it in. I told them that what it meant as a parent to see a doll that actually represented myself, the community. And I explained how the brand Barbie had perpetuated into South Africa community, into the whole, and we had this whole event about it. At first, in those moments, people tend to freeze. They don't know what to do. Some are wondering if they should be awkward in response. But within a few moments, it sparks such interesting conversation. And I think people are genuinely interested. So yes, I'm passionate about what I do. And I know, and I think it comes down to the why. Why do I do what I do? I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have a deep and inherent desire to equip people to be better strategic managements, to be better employees, to be better entrepreneurs, to be better communicators. So I know my why, and that is what drives me to deliver what I do.
Oh, remembering your why, people are yearning for that human connection and the importance of keeping it authentic and real. And you mentioned your son with special needs, Jesse. Of all the years I've known you, Catherine, one thing is for sure, your depth of drive is contagious. And with that drive that you have in your work as a senior lecturer, pursuing your doctorate over the years, and now to have this special needs child, what did they do to you, as well as your drive as a mother?
Sure. That's a loaded question. I've got two parts to it. It was by far the hardest moment of my life. I know you, and I thank you for being there for me. You were aware of it. It was extremely hard to accept that diagnosis. I wrestled with it because all parents would wrestle with it. You have your dreams and your hopes, and suddenly everything changes in a moment. I wondered how I was going to handle it going back to work, especially because I work in an academic context. That means I work with people with high intellect, intellectual space. And now I've got on this other side a child with special needs and an intellectual disability. I didn't actually know how to align those two almost paradoxical situations. So at first, I felt a lot of feelings. I felt shame. I felt disappointment. I felt lots of things. And I had to feel the feels. So I spent maternity feeling the feels. Most of us look forward to going back because when you get back to work after you've had a precious baby, people are genuinely interested. They ask, how are you doing? How is your baby? And then I had a decision. Was I going to choose silence? Or was I going to, again, have that human connection and use this as an opportunity to educate and to be real? So I would just say to my colleagues when I got back, it was tough. I had a child with Down syndrome. And it's a bit of an awkward moment, but then it opened up a lot of conversations. Afterwards, colleagues started telling me about their own experiences. Next minute, we were talking about their encounters with persons with Down syndrome. So getting it out there was just the best thing I could have done. If I had tried to hold it in or hush it or anything, it just would have made it even way worse. So I really want to say how I handled it was jumping straight out. This is what happened. This is who I had. He's a little person. And then it was out. And then I carried on living. But I do have to struggle with this paradox of being an intellect. So if you go back to your question about drive, I feel more driven now.
Whoa.
Because I now want to show that even though life events happen, you can rise above. And now I'm very passionate about getting back to my research projects and getting them out there and saying that, it didn't hold me back. He's a little person and he's added a new dynamic.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. but it didn't stop me, and it's not going to stop me from pursuing my research goals. Although, building on your conversation, I want to add that, having 3 children and working lost me 18 months of research productivity. And I don't think we speak about that enough. We have policies to give maternity leave, of which I'm super grateful for. But it was 18 months that I lost of productivity. I see abroad certain CVs come and they say, like, I was on parental leave, but we're not open about that in South Africa. Yes. We don't say that actually Catherine Roux was not actively working for those times, 3 children, 3 maternity leaves.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my HOD has acknowledged that, okay, during the period 2018 to 2023, Dr. Leroux was having 3 babies.
Yeah.
And it's not that she was underperforming. And that was something hard, because I don't want people to think, nobody wants anyone to think that they're underperforming. But I was taking 3 maternity leaves.
Yeah, you were birthing.
Yes, 3 children. But yet my CV doesn't look that way. My CV doesn't show, it shows these gaps. And I think that was tough. But we need to talk about it.
We do. Catherine, there's so much you've shared, particularly around Jesse and the birth of your child and how he's actually ignited the drive within you as well. And also having to deal with the challenges, the uncertainties, the curveballs that life throws at you, because so many times we have these aspirations for what it is that we want, and then life gives you another path.
Yes.
Looking back now, would you have had it any other way?
I'm not ready to answer that. I think let's check in. Let's have another interview down the line. I've seen moms with children that are older with Down syndrome, and they make Facebook posts and social media posts like, I would never have it any other way. But I'm not ready yet to say those words.
Yeah.
Maybe I will be, and I will call you the day I do.
Yes.
But right now, I think everyone still has that certain dream and paths and your perfect life. Yeah. I was reading a book about that, and it was saying, the life of the unexpected gift. I'm sure I will get to a place where I realize I received an unexpected gift. But I'm not ready to yet get there.
And that's fair, because it's a journey.
It's a journey.
And your honesty around it is everything. And thank you for that. To those mothers out there who are watching our conversation and they believe, I can't pursue the career, have the 3 children, publish the research articles, get my PhD. And I know you have so many other aspirations. What's your message to them who are just struggling to juggle it all?
Struggling to juggle it all. I would say I want to go back to my analogy of the cross country. Because if you were to try and think about everything you want to do all at once, it would just be too overwhelming. So start somewhere. Start the race.
Yeah.
Equip yourself, do the training, get the skills, breathe along the way, begin with the end in mind, know your why, and build in some resilience for the curveballs. Things happen on this road. And the best advice I could say was, stop believing that there is one path or a perfect life. No one's life is actually perfect and all set. And I wanted that. Everybody wants people who have drive, and you have these goals, but you got to be ready to adjust along the way. It doesn't mean that you won't get there, but everyone's path looks a little bit different, and you got to be ready for some resilience for when things don't go path. But it's the long road. It's the long journey.
It's the long journey.
And there is going to be a finish, and we've got a race to run.
Yeah. So I've watched you mother your children and be a phenomenal wife, and I'm in awe at how you do it. But over the years, I've secretly carried my notebook in the engagements with you, and I see you build a strong support team.
Definitely.
That is helping you with the children, that is helping you even with Jessie, who is such a light and a force and just an angelic energy that we get to experience daily. So it is the importance of support.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I was married for 7 years before I had kids, so I enjoyed those years because it was time to bond with my husband, to pursue my careers, and I did do that. I finished my doctorate before I had children, which is not always possible for everyone, but I knew I wanted to do that first. Anyway, but back to support, I want to tell you about a very special moment on where support actually happened in my life. So we thought we could do it. You know, we were fine. We were here. My parents lived in Durban. Hannes' parents lived in the Northern Cape. And then COVID hit. And I had 2 little children. I had Caitlin. I had Lucy. She was born 2 weeks before the pandemic shut down everything. And I realized that we didn't have school. We didn't have help. We didn't have au pairs. Everything was shut down. And then I'm like, this deep feeling of isolation hit me. And I had to do everything alone. We had to do it alone. And I was like, this is so crazy. We are not meant to do this thing alone. We are supposed to be community. We've become way too westernized in that sense. We're supposed to have aunties. We're supposed to have grannies. We're supposed to have support. And I could just realize that this was just not a good model. So I picked up the phone and I phoned my mom and I'm like, I think it's time you move here. And actually, when I had, and she was like, okay. So I had, then I had that parallel conversation with Hannes, and he's like, tell your mom yes. And I thought it was so special also that a son-in-law would say, it's time, we want your parents. And he wants them in our lives. I want them in our lives. And they moved a K up the road. And that made an incredible difference. So I want to also encourage grandparents. You know, sometimes grandparents have these aspirations of living their life on Hermanus Beach or KZN and having a life. And I understand. I respect that. They've worked their life. They want to retire. But I'm seeing incredible value of having grandparents in my children's lives. They have conversations I can't have. I don't have capacity to have. And if you are in that fortunate situation, I would say whether it is your mum or your husband's mum, invite them in. Invite them in because there's going to be benefit for you. And not just because I'm using you to give my kids lift, which they do. It's more about that influence, that
calling
support.
and leaning on to them. And at times, whether it's grandparents, whether it's an auntie, whether even if it's a helper.
Definitely.
We as women also need to build the strength to say, I need help. I can't do it on my own. I'm not a super woman. So critical. Catherine, our feature and our conversation is about be brave. What does bravery mean to you?
Bravery means stepping out when you don't have all the information. It means accepting the murkiness and and change when things don't feel in order. It means being resilient for me. Bravery also means vulnerability. Definitely, that has been an element for me. So being brave is being willing to try things and saying yes, even when you don't feel ready for it. Stepping up, taking an opportunity, whether it's to teach a postgraduate module, facilitate a session, do a training, but deep down you say, but I'm not ready for it, but say yes anyway. Because when you step into the space that's actually you're not yet equipped or trained for, that's when the growth happens. It's very rare that you step into a place and you do it when you've got everything in order. So growth for me happened when I was brave and I stepped and I said yes when I wasn't ready.
And the bravest thing you've ever done?
Oh, there's a couple. I think I've shared them in the session. It was taking jobs when I wasn't being ready, saying yes to teaching masters. But yeah, many multiple brave things. But I'd say having kids and working is a pretty much a big brave decision.
Yes.
And yes, I've also had to learn to rely on others and ask for help and say when I can't do things. There's amazing things that happen with school and things, and sometimes I just say, I can't be there. And that sometimes also means bravery means saying no.
Oh, true.
When it could mean that you could, be class mom or do something, and I don't have capacity for it. And it's a bit hard because you wish you could be everything for everyone.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you can't be everything to everyone. And that for me is being brave because it's being real. So bravery is also about being real.
I want to go there quickly, the guilt of not being able to be the class mom.
Yes.
Or the guilt of not being able to be there at every recital or extramural activity. How do you navigate that?
It is tough, being highly selective about which ones. And sometimes I just have a conversation with a little person.
Yeah.
And I've taught her how to be resilient and how to be confident.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget, there was a party during the day for a little girl. It was a little girl's party at school, and all the moms were there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be there. I couldn't. I wasn't in a position to take leave, and I have a full-time job. And I remember speaking to her and saying, okay, do you want to go? She said, no, she really wants to go. Yeah. So I said, okay, so is it fine if you go with Tannie Nikki? She said, okay.
Yeah.
She got in the car. She went to the party. And afterwards, I had moms come to me and say, but how did you send, I think she was 4. She said, Caitlin had come up to them and said, Tannie, could you fill up my cold drink for me? So if you ask how I do it, I try my best to equip my child to be able to cope in different situations without me. And I'm not saying it's every time, but I can't be there every time. So I'd rather say, look, do you want the opportunity? Or are you ready to be brave yourself and go do it? And she did. And more I'm seeing her step out.
Wow.
And if I had been there and said, no, I must be there at every single opportunity, maybe she wouldn't have learned those skills.
Yeah.
So you've got to also look at the pros. If I sit with the guilt of saying, oh, but I wasn't at the party, rather focusing on the benefits, I equipped her to deal with the situation. And she was perfectly happy with loving support around her. And I called on the motherhood, sisterhood of motherhood. Yeah. And there were other mums there that were willing to help and support.
Wow, the sisterhood of motherhood as well. Calling on that and building the skill set to your child as well, to be brave, critical. It's Women's Month. What is your message to other mothers out there, women out there, those who want to really take their careers to the next level, or women who are navigating the murkiness, Catherine, of life?
Sure. Firstly, happy Women's Month to all of the mothers out there and to the moms and women out there. I applaud you. I respect you. And I want you to know, my message to you is don't look around. And looking around is setting you up for comparison and you feeling that you're not doing enough or you're not achieving enough. So I'm not saying don't have goals, but just don't look around. Maybe limit social media for a while because we are doing well, you are doing well, and it's to live your own life. So my message in Women's Month is be true to yourself and don't compare yourself to others. We're all on our own journey, and each of our journey has something amazing to offer.
Oh, I honor you. I thank you for the decade-long friendship, over a decade. Counting.
Friend, I married 14 years this year, and you were my bridesmaid standing there. So we were friends before that.
It's been a long time. Thank you for being such a pillar of strength in my life. Thank you for being a radiant force of love. I'm forever grateful. I knocked on your door looking for secondhand textbooks that has opened this whirlwind of joy, love, sisterhood, and a friendship that has shifted and propelled me to be brave. You really have ignited me to be brave, even though in situations where I knew I'm not ready, I'm nervous, I know I could always call on you.
Absolutely.
And I thank you for that. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you for this opportunity. I loved being here, and I want to reciprocate that message. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being my friend and for being there through the highs and lows. And I look forward to many years ahead.
Yay! And that is my Be Brave conversation with my dear friend, Catherine Roux, sharing with us a glimpse of her journey, what has truly inspired her. I love the analogy of cross-country. Remember to focus on your why. Pace yourself, breathe, be open to, expect the murkiness that comes, the curveballs that life throws at you. Like she said, she shared some of the curveballs that she's had to overcome along this journey. And most importantly, focus on your journey, ladies. Let's focus on our journey. That's it from our conversation today about Be Brave. I encourage you as we go out there into this Women's Month, be brave, be bold, be intentional, and put your best self forward.